All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual event, Drawing Badge with REM5. As we get started here and more people are logging in, we're going to go over a couple of things to get started. First, if you've downloaded Sketch AR on your phones or your tablets, you'll be able to follow along. Yep, awesome. Looks like some people are downloading right now. You'll be able to follow along today. If not, don't worry. We're going to record this so you can look at it later on the Girl Scouts webpage later. Second of all, you can see and hear us, but we can't see and hear you. So there are two awesome ways to get in contact with us. The first is the raise your hand function. It should be located at the bottom of your screen. Let's go ahead and try it out. And can you answer the question for me? Raise your hand if you like art. Go ahead and see if you guys all got. Awesome. Looks like you guys get the raise your hand function. The second way to get in contact with us is using the chat box at the bottom of your screen. So I'm going to have you guys use the chat box. And why don't you guys tell us what you guys think of when you hear of virtual reality? What comes to mind when you think of virtual reality? We'll see if anyone has anything to say about virtual reality in the chat box. Computers? A headset? Cool. Anyone else have anything that they think of? Tilt brush. Beat Saber. Oh, that was Travis. That was our expert. Video games. Awesome. All right. Those all sound like they probably have something to do with VR. So I'm going to go ahead and toss it over to Travis and Meg, and they're going to introduce you a little bit to what AR and VR is.
Thanks, Abby. Appreciate it. And we're excited to be here and talk to you today about virtual reality and REM5, what we're doing, and then give you a little demo that'll give you a little bit more to do at home with AR and sort of show you what this technology can be used for and sort of hopefully open your minds a little bit to that. So the first thing I'll do here is share a little presentation that we've got, and this will help kind of give some background to what virtual reality is and what this technology is all about. So one of the things that we want everybody to take away today is a little bit more of an understanding of what VR is, what AR is, what's the difference between different devices, different headsets, because this industry can be really confusing. And then we want you to understand how to use it. And then Meg will talk about what it's like to work in the industry too. So if you have any questions throughout, feel free to ask. I think Abby will help moderate that, but we're happy to answer any of those questions throughout as well. So my name is Travis Williams. I'm one of the co-founders of REM5, and I'll let Meg introduce herself.
I'm Meg Noakes. I'm a REM5 manager, and I also work on the education products team.
All right, and this is just a quick outline of what we're going to cover today. So an introduction to immersive technology. So that is this kind of big bubble of virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and we'll get into that a little bit. A little bit about REM5. Meg will talk about women in immersive technology, and she's got some great stories there. We'll do an AR demo and then talk about what AR is being used for in the real world. And then we'll have plenty of time for questions as well at the end. So VR technology has really been the next big thing for over 100 years. And so this is something that, you know, a lot of us think that this is brand new, but this has really popped up every decade or 2 decades for a really long time. And what this started as was, if you look at there on the stereoscope, so what that is really just a picture with 2 images on it. And then the lenses in the stereoscope just tilt one of those images. And what that does is tricks your eyes into thinking that there's depth there. So that's the way things started in the 1800s. The Viewmaster in 1939, VR really went mainstream. So this is something that we thought was going to disrupt travel and education, all kinds of different industries. So you maybe played with one of these before. We have a bunch of these at REM5. They're a lot of fun to look at. But it's really the same concept. You're taking an image, you're tilting it in one direction, you get a little bit of depth there when you're looking at that. The current generation of virtual reality really started in 2012 when Oculus, which you've maybe heard of, did a Kickstarter. And so that generated a lot of buzz, and they were developing their own headset. They were eventually bought by Facebook, and now we're creating a couple headsets, one of which I'll show you here today. So that's kind of where we are today with the industry, getting into this next kind of wave of technology. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is the difference between virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, 360 video. There's all kinds of these different things that we often kind of lump together into one thing. So virtual reality, when we talk about it, what we think of is you're in a virtual space. So that means you can move around in that space. You can grab things in the space. The system knows when you take a step forward and you take a step back, if you jump. Sometimes even like if you kick, you can kick a soccer ball in some experiences. But the entire experience around you is virtual. Augmented reality is you're taking actual reality, and this is what we'll show you today, and you're putting a digital image on top of it. So this is something that you've maybe seen with something like Snapchat. So Snapchat filters are actually augmented reality, just in same thing with Pokemon Go. So those are some use cases that you maybe thought of and maybe didn't even know that you were doing AR. Mixed reality is really mixing reality, so maybe some physical device and virtual reality. So at REM5, we have a hockey stick that you can actually do hockey practice, practice some techniques where you're actually holding a real hockey stick. It feels like you're on the ice. You can shoot pucks, but you're in a fully virtual environment. The other thing to mention is 360 video. So that is actually can be a virtual image, or it can also be a still image that's actually captured with a camera, but you're not able to move around through space. So some examples of some devices that are going to be using that is the Google Cardboard right here. So these are really great way to get your feet wet in the industry. These are about $10 online and work very similar to the ViewMaster that we looked at earlier. You just throw your phone in here, and then you can look at things in 360 video and some basically some immersive experiences that are all around you. So you can watch a basketball game, you can watch a documentary. There's all kinds of great things you can do with that. The next step up from there is the Oculus Go. So this is a device that we use a lot with our education content because it's really accessible. We can bring this to different places. We're even doing some rental programs right now with these. And some really great content you can see, whether it's documentaries or traveling through space or doing a spacewalk. There's a lot of great content on this device. The only thing is you can't move around with it. So we always like to sit down, maybe even in a swivel chair to use this kind of a device. And then full virtual reality, you're talking about a little bit more complicated setup with a headset like this. And I've actually got some lighthouses around here so the system knows that where we are when we're moving around. So why are we excited about this technology, and why are we showing it off to you today? Just like the PC and mobile, if you think back a long ways to maybe when your parents were younger, PCs changed everything about the way that we work, play, socialize. And these little devices right here, mobile phones, did the exact same thing about 10 years ago. You know, we're on our phones all the time now. That just wasn't the case 10 years ago. So immersive technology is going to do a lot of those things and change the way that we interact with other people. So REM5. So we've got kind of three things that we do at REM5. The REM5 Virtual Reality Laboratory, where Meg is one of the managers. That's where we're bringing VR to people. They come to us, and we've got, you know, food and beverage, and then we introduce virtual reality to you, like games. There's a lot of educational content that we do as well. And then we're helping businesses get into VR, and then we're actually building VR content through our own studio as well. So that's a little bit about what we do as a business, but sort of the main thing that you might see from us is things like field trips, or even coming to do VR with your friends and family. And this is sort of another look at that. entertainment is the first thing on the left. We had about 15,000 people through VR, K through 12 STEM education, and then we're doing a lot of business training as well. So that's really fun to be a part of, reaching all kinds of different people, all kinds of different age groups in virtual reality. This is really something that's for everybody and for all ages. All right, Meg, I will hand it over to you here to talk a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, okay. So I first got into VR in 2016. So I had a roommate who had an HTC Vive in our apartment. And so the first thing that I did in VR was Google Earth, which is this really cool program where you can basically go anywhere on the planet without actually having to leave your home. So I remember spending hours in this program, just kind of walking along all these places that I had been before, all these places that I wanted to go without even leaving my apartment. It's a really amazing experience. And along with that, I also did some job simulator, which is this super humorous, whimsical simulation. If you've seen any job simulator or you want to try it, let us know in the chat. But it's hilarious. You basically get to do whatever you want if you're like a gourmet chef or an office worker, and you're put into this world where you can't really fail. But I fell in love with VR right away. I never really predicted myself having a career in VR. It was something where any tech career, I kind of had this like misconception that you had to be like some big brain, big glasses guy behind a big computer. But that's not true at all. So a couple of years later, I found this ad online. It's kind of vague. It was, looking for a service worker with an excitement for VR. And free LaCroix was in the ad. So I'm immediately interested. Soon I met Travis and Amir, the co-founders of REM5, in like an empty warehouse. There's like construction going on. We're like yelling over each other. And they tell me about, their vision for REM5 as a business, how they think VR will change the way we learn, create, play. And I'm immediately inspired. Their one job requirement was just to be excited about VR, which I super was. So soon they hire me as their first VR concierge. And now my job has kind of changed a little bit since then. It's kind of molded into this quirky woman of wearing many hats. I manage the lab on our normal entertainment hours. I do work with our education outreach, working with classrooms and local educators in the area, building lesson plans and using VR as an educational tool, and work with our sensory-friendly events, seniors, diversity, equity, inclusion. VR is this really unique industry that kind of wiggles its way into all of these different mediums and places. So even though virtual reality wasn't somewhere that I had seen myself taking a career on, because it's such a young industry, and all of the information is so accessible at our fingertips with the internet, it's really easy to get involved if you're excited about it and you're motivated for it. So there is one other woman who's kind of a pioneer of VR that I kind of like to chat about a little bit. Her name is Nani de la Pena. She has kind of been coined the godmother of VR. So she's a journalist who uses VR as this visceral empathy generator to tell stories. So she is the CEO and founder of a company called Emblematic, and they recreate these scenes in VR. So she created one of the first VR documentaries. It's called Hungry in LA, and basically it's you put on the headset and you're kind of transported into this scene where you're waiting in a really long food line for a food bank in LA. and there is a man next to you, and he has diabetes, and you're waiting in this line for a super long time, and he doesn't get his food in an appropriate amount of time, and he goes into shock and a coma, and you're in this first person perspective where you get to like see the reactions of the people around you, and it's really powerful because you're seeing this from a first person perspective, and you see how the people around you are reacting, and since then Nani has created many different documentaries that tell these like real world stories that are super powerful. So, I mean, the people who are involved in VR right now are kind of the pioneers of the industry because it is so young. And it's unique because with virtual reality being so fresh and so new, there isn't really a rule book here. We're kind of on the front lines coming up with it as we go. So there isn't really a ceiling with the possibilities here. As long as you have, the motivation and the passion for VR, you're going to go a pretty long way.
Yeah, and that's, what's really cool being in the industry is like we're literally creating this as we go. We launched REM5 less than 2 years ago, and I mean we're a place that companies are going to ask questions. Hey, we're Target. We're thinking about VR. Who should we talk to? Well, REM5 is one of the first places that they look at. So, and we've talked with all kinds of huge companies that, and Meg is one of the experts in the industry, and so that she's answering questions that are people who you might think would know everything about technology don't know, because we've got a really unique perspective on the industry. So thanks for sharing those stories, Meg. And yeah, I mean, it's great. Really, really accessible industry. It's really just about being interested in it. All right, so now we're going to go to our demo. I will change what I'm sharing here and open up my phone sharing. All right, so what's really cool with virtual reality and augmented reality is you can basically do anything with it. It's really just limited by what your creativity is and what you want to do. So with augmented reality, there's been a lot of applications that have come out that use this technology to overlay, like I mentioned earlier, overlays a digital image on top of the real world. So you can use that for all kinds of different things. You can use that to show the space launch. You can use that to just make funny, pictures on your face, like I said with Snapchat. We can use that for things like shopping, whether it's in store or online, all kinds of different applications. But one that we wanted to highlight today is called Sketch AR. And what this is trying to do is really teach you about drawing using technology. And if you're somebody like me, I don't know anything about drawing. When I started using this application, I was like, oh, this is really cool. These are skills I should have maybe learned, a while ago. But really easy to use, and you can get really advanced with this. So I'm just going to open this up right here. It's called Sketch AR. And there's a lot of different tools here. What we're going to do here is start on the bottom with Learn. And I'm going to go with For Beginners because I am a beginning drawer. And I'm going to try this this cat right here. I know Meg likes cats, so that's what we're going to do. And I think Abby's going to get in here. We're gonna do a little competition. See who can.
Are we all drawing a cat, or can I see?
We can draw whatever you want.
I mean, like, you should draw the cat. Meg, do you want to draw something else? Let me know in the chat if I should draw a cupcake or a unicorn. Those are the two that I think I can do for sure.
I like it.
Anyone have any ideas? A unicorn in the chat? I'm seeing a unicorn in the chat. All right. I'm going to draw a unicorn. Travis is going to draw a cat. Meg?
All right. All right.
I'm going to go penguin.
All right. Penguin it is.
All right. So this is how the app opens up. And you might see here that I'm actually going to turn on my second screen here. I don't know if you can share that, Abby. So you can kind of see a third person view of what I'm doing. But I've just got a table here and what I did was I put a few pieces of tape on the table. And the reason for that is the augmented reality system that's built into your phone or your tablet is actually looking for reference points. So what it's trying to do is it's trying to say, okay, I'm looking for a flat surface. So what can I see that I can sort of say, okay, here's one spot that I know is going to be consistent. Here's another spot that I know is going to be consistent, and basically triangulate those so that it can map out this augmented reality surface. So that's what these when you pull this up on your phone, you'll see a bunch of little dots. That's what those are trying to do. And what this tape does is makes that a little bit easier for the system to understand. When we're using some of the Oculus Quest headsets, which is something that we're doing with experiences, full VR experiences where you can run around and kind of like play laser tag against each other, we actually put tape on the floor for the same exact reason, so that the system knows where those reference points are. So that's the reason that that this tape is down here. And when you're trying out VR, it's the reason that sometimes there's tape on the floor like that. It's actually, and the randomness here is actually giving a better reference point. If you were trying to do this on like a mirror or on a shiny granite countertop, it might not work quite as well. So that's so it's a little bit of background. So it's recognized what my piece of paper is right here. I'm going to go to this next step and see where we should start. All right, so this wants me to start with a big circle. Now this is recommending that you use a pencil. I'm going to use a pen so that you can see what I'm doing here. Already got a little mix up there, but you can see actually as I get closer, the system actually understands that, so it can see, can adapt to the size of the paper. I don't have to be completely still. All right, go to the next one here. Another oval here.
This is not easy to keep one hand steady.
It's true.
Yeah, and what's interesting with this is if you kind of go back later and almost like retrace yourself, it looks much more natural. But you know, I wouldn't even know where to start with drawing something like a cat. So it gives me a good starting point. How's the unicorn coming?
Oh, it's looking good. Meg, how's yours going?
Penguin's good, I think. Maybe.
This feels like a win.
All right, I got a good outline here. Put my ears on, and you can see that I can see what I've actually drawn through the phone here too.
Are any of you following along? What are you drawing? Want to type it in the chat box?
Ooh, this is gonna be a good one.
Oh, we have another penguin getting drawn.
My surface was too shiny.
All right, now here's our reference points on the cat. Again, if you're using a pencil, you can erase these lines later. I'll draw them nice and dark so you can see them. So I'm just hitting next step and it's bringing up the next set of lines here. These eyes are always what give me trouble.
Mine's holding a pencil.
This is looking good, you guys.
And once you get good at this too, there's a ton of different options in here, both for free if we want to go really wild. I think there are people that put up drawings. That you can
Travis, do you have
add
any
to this as
pointers
well.
for like holding your phone and your drawing? So you should like hold your phone with one hand and like try and draw with your normal drawing hand.
Yeah, I mean that's what I do with this one. You know, the other way to do it, the optimal way to do it would be to have a little tripod for your phone. You know, that's maybe not something that everybody has at home, but that would be the ideal way to do it, is if you could just hold this steady right here, right in front of you, and be able to draw that way. All right, I got a couple more. Are you guys already done?
Somebody else said that it's asking them to draw on the screen, not on above the paper. You have any tricks for that? I know one of the options.
Oh, so what you can do when you right before I got into this, there's open in AR, or there's draw on the screen. So that's the different selections. And so different devices are gonna operate a little bit differently. Like an older iPad in particular might not have augmented reality. They added that, you know, I think like 4 years ago or so on the iPhone. I think the iPad has been a little bit later to adopt that. So that might be what you're running into there, is just what the augmented reality capabilities of the device are. But doing it on the tablet is, you know, practice as well. So
I'm adding color to mine.
All right, so I got to the point where mine is done. Now it's gonna want me to erase some of these reference lines and do some shading, which is a little bit tough to do with my pen here. But I feel pretty good about where we're at. And one of the things I really like about this application is you can actually record what you did and then watch it back. So here's a little clip of me drawing in Sketch AR, just sped up. So it looks like I actually know what I'm doing here.
Impressive.
And this is something you can save and share with other people as well. Look at how quickly I'm drawing that.
Yeah. You do look like an expert when you do it this way.
So yeah, this is a really great application. And you can even, with this one, you can even see if you go back what other people have created in the app as well.
All right, Meg, are you ready to show yours?
I am.
Show off yours.
Okay. Oh, hang on. My background might make it strange.
Oh, wow, your penguin's really good.
That's awesome.
All right, here's my unicorn.
Look at that.
It's a unicorn cat. All right, let's see in the chat if you have any votes. Who won? Travis with his cat, Meg with the penguin, or Abby with the unicorn? Anyone have any votes? Meg, no! Penguin! Oh, so many votes for Meg.
It might be unanimous here. Yeah.
Oh, Travis, you got one.
Hey, I get one vote.
But I got 0. So, you guys, I was so confident the unicorn would win. All right. Well.
All right. Well, we wanted to just cover a couple more things that AR is going to be used for now that we've kind of used it. So I'll share this again. But this is a fun way to use this technology. But what this is really doing is disrupting a lot of things that we're doing in our everyday our everyday lives. I had mentioned Snapchat. Oops, let me go back here. I had mentioned Snapchat and filters, but IKEA is also using AR. You can actually go and look at most of their products and see how it looks in your room or in your house, and actually sort of put it there and see how it would fit in real life. And then I think Meg, you wanted to highlight Obsess. They're doing some cool stuff too.
Yeah. So it's a platform for kind of shopping with AR. And it's kind of been up and coming with the recent pandemic. So people can use AR to look at clothing through their phone and see how it would look in real life.
And they're even using it to look at like spaces, like pop-up spaces. So if you're familiar with like fashion pop-up stores, if you're wanting to open up a pop-up, you can actually like do the layout of the store too. So some really cool applications for augmented reality that are becoming more and more common every day. All right.
All right.
Want to open it up to questions?
So yeah, let's open it up to any questions that you guys may have for our virtual reality experts. Whatever you want to know, now's the time to ask. And we're also looking on Facebook, so if you're following on Facebook, go ahead and ask in Facebook as well. We already have a first question that says, have you ever used Quiver?
Yeah.
What is Quiver?
Look confused. Quiver is a archery application. So you can, it's one that can be multiplayer, but you're basically protecting your castle from these like oncoming orcs and stuff like that. I don't know if Maggie, if you have a better explanation of it.
No, nailed it. Yeah, it's archery, virtual archery. You even like reach behind your shoulder, pull your arrow forward, draw back, and shoot the orcs to protect your like village.
Is that
AR
or VR?
Full VR on that one. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Any other questions from our audience? I know you guys talked about sort of like different ways people are doing it, the IKEA, Obsess. What are like some other experiences people can have with AR at home? Besides, and Sketch AR, we know. But what other experiences can people have?
So there's all kinds of different applications that include augmented reality. So like space, for example, you can watch like the Apollo 11 launch. You can see what it's like to have the moon lander come down on the moon. There's just all kinds of, you can like look at a heart. There's an application that you can sort of basically like look inside a coronavirus, which is something that's been really interesting over the last couple of weeks. But if you're interested in a topic, even just in the App Store, searching like medicine AR, there'll be interesting things that pop up. And AR is also being built more into platforms that we use, more kind of every day that aren't necessarily so specific. So like Amazon, Target, we mentioned IKEA, so that you can basically visualize things as more things move online. The idea would be to be able to visualize those things maybe before I, buy a bookshelf or something like that, or a couch, to make sure that it fits in my space. So that's where it's starting to be used more and more.
Cool. How about Meg? I'm curious about sort of like you talked a little bit about your experience as a woman in sort of virtual reality, but it's not very common for women to be in virtual reality, is it?
Yeah, and for the first, basically year that I worked at REM5, I was the only lady there, and I think like myself, I think a lot of women just have this misconception that you have to be a dude with a big brain to be in VR, but it's not true at all. And so we've hosted a couple events at REM5 for like women in STEM, just to encourage younger women to get involved in tech, because it is such a young and exciting industry. But yeah, it does feel a little rare at times.
Cool. Well, maybe we have some Girl Scouts in attendance that want to
Yeah.
for you guys. All right. Well, I'm actually not seeing any other questions in our chat. So
yeah, and one other thing I wanted to, to dive into these further, one of the things that we try to do is really find ways for people to explore this more. So if this is the kind of technology that gets you excited, or you're interested in learning more about VR, we have some great programs, for rentals now that coronavirus is kind of kept everybody at home, and will now for a couple more weeks. But Oculus device rentals, which is this device here, and then even an education platform where we do like lesson plans and everything like that, called the Youth Innovation Lab Plus. So those have been really cool and really exciting for us to offer to customers, and they've been really excited about that as well. So just trying to find great ways to introduce more of this technology to more people.
cool. So you guys can check out REM5 on their Facebook or online. I think that's about it for us today. You guys can remember that our recording will be on our Girl Scouts at Home webpage, and that there is some steps for you to follow to finish up your badge. And I'm going to go ahead and post that right in the chat. And you can copy this into your web browser, and that'll help you finish up your drawing badge. And then there will be a survey that comes up when you exit the webinar. And just please fill that out. Let us know how it was. Let us know what else you want to see. And that makes our online programming so much better. And I just want to thank both Meg and Travis for being here today. It was really fun to be able to talk to you guys and experiment with Sketch AR together. So yeah, thank you very much, and we'll catch you all next time.
Thanks for having us. Have a good one,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.